Well, good afternoon and happy Thursday to everyone. As you can tell, we're back here for the Spectacular Entrepreneur Show, and I am Nanette Polito, franchisee owner here in Kentucky, except you'll notice my background's a little different today because I'm not in Kentucky. I happen to be attending a conference, so you're actually looking at the back of my hotel room today. But it's good to be here, and I wouldn't miss this for the world. With me are my two partners in crime, Mike Macedonio, who is a world-renowned author, entrepreneur. He built a small training company, and he has it up to 60 countries. Is that not amazing? And then we have Eddie Esposito, who is also another business expert, the expert in communicating and helping people understand why they do what they do. And both of them just want everyone around them to be successful. So it's really great to have you all here joining us today. And our topic is going to be, are you balancing your life on a tightrope? You're an entrepreneur or a business person, and you have your business that you need to keep going and keep running, and you have this family over here or other things pulling you over here that you just know you also have to do. And so today our topic is going to be, how do you bring those two together and you become really stable on that tightrope? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Eddie, who are going to guide you through this process. But before they get talking, please, if you have questions, put them in the question bar on your dashboard, and I will get them relayed to them so they can answer them for you live while we're on the show. So here we go, guys. I'm turning it over to you.
All right. And I'm glad to be speaking with you, Nanette, and the world-renowned Mike Macedonio. That's good. This is one of the probably most asked about topics that I get, and most people just feel it first, is the idea around balance. And there's a lot made about balance, about work versus play and work versus family, or all those guys together, and commitments, and what's got priority and what doesn't. And most of the time people feel it way before they, I think, even acknowledge that they're having an issue around it or a problem around it. And first off, let's just talk about the idea of balance. When you start thinking about balance, life balance, work-life balance, is probably how it's most often referred to as, well, what exactly is that? And I think you start with, well, who or what are you trying to balance? If I own a business and I have a family and I have other obligations, my own pleasurable obligations, like cars, or Mike likes mountain biking or wine tasting or whatever the deal is. If all these other things that you are trying to find time for a balance, but what does it mean? How much time is balanced? Is it 50? Is it equal distribution? Is it 50-50? What is balance? Because you'll want to know when you get there so you can be satisfied, and which often is probably part of the problem that we end up uncovering, is that while they might feel uncomfortable, they don't know. Most of us don't know what exact mix would make us comfortable. So then we have to start looking at what are the things that make it up, what are the things that I'm most concerned about, and then decide, what is balanced around that. So as you can see, just by my explanation, it's probably more complex than just a work-life balance, 50-50. That's an illusion or a delusion that comes along that I think will eventually trip us up. So when we start thinking about work-life balance, what are the things we're trying to balance? And then we have to start thinking about what kind of priority we put around them. So Mike, what are your thoughts or your other insights around that, just that one particular thing?
Well, I think one of the things you're talking about is balance doesn't mean that it's equal. Right. Balance means it's congruent with you, and Ivan uses the word harmony. I'm in harmony, and I think about my balance, if you would. I couldn't resist for this topic to come outside because we're in beautiful California. You can see the scenery behind me. It doesn't get any better. I mean, this obviously makes me feel like I'm in harmony, but also what I'm doing, in this environment. Interestingly, when I was preparing for this topic, I was thinking about my cycling, and I'm most in balance and most in harmony actually when I'm training, which actually would seem a little bit extreme. Like you would look at that from the outside and say, oh, that's out of balance. And for me, it just feels so perfect to be, training hard and cycling and continuing with business and life and family. So it's not an equation.
Right, and so then another takeaway from that is the idea of balance then is very much individual.
Mm-hmm.
So what I may consider balance, like if I saw you cycling at the level you do when you're in training, and I have seen it, and it consumes every waking moment other than the things that we might be doing, it looks out of balance. But for you, that's perfectly in balance or in harmony or in rhythm or however I like to put that. But for you, that works. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very much individual. So that means probably the most important part about it is that we communicate it with the others that are important to us, or the other people and what they represent, whether it be other work people or our family life, including our kids, so they know what it is that we're doing and how long it's going to last, so that they also are aware of, okay, everything's okay, somebody's not overworking or overplaying or whatever. So communication around it is also extremely important here. And Mike, so have you worked that one out? I mean, like I said, I have been with you around the world with a bicycle in tow, so communication wasn't too hard. I had the bike sticking out the back of the van. So.
Well, Eddie, I think one of the things as entrepreneurs, when we want to create that harmony or create that balance in our life, I think a couple of things that we can start with is looking at our life purpose. For those that participate with Ascentive, we've also talked about our emotionally charged connection. So I'll just briefly, we don't have time to discuss completely emotionally charged connection, but just briefly, those are those life experiences that really define the why in what we do, the why and how we show up in life. And I think when you really come to grips with what your emotionally charged connection is, what your purpose is, okay, and then finally what your mission is, it is a great course for us to start living in balance. Along the idea of the mission, my personal mission is to orchestrate peak life experiences for others and myself. Now, what does that mean to me? Well, peak life experiences to me sometimes are athletic events that I train and participate with other fellow teammates. It's also helping business owners like Ascentive people start new businesses of coaching and consulting. Those are peak life experiences that I want to orchestrate, but I want to be part of. Okay? One of the peak life experiences is going to be this weekend, doing a fundraiser dinner. Where Dawn and I put on a gourmet meal and just take people over the top, and at the same time raising money for the big cats. Now, what's so important about that in terms of my balance is the mission tells me what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Most importantly for me, it helps me create my not to-do list. If I'm not on mission and I got things coming into my calendar or into my life that I'm not on that mission, I'm going to be out of balance. Okay, so having that emotionally charged connection, knowing your purpose, and then having a clear mission and sticking to it is one way to help guide that course for balance and harmony.
I think that is the absolute must starting place, because I don't know how you can declare what would be in balance or out if you didn't have some idea of what you were in your own brain, like what you're supposed to be doing. So if my life's purpose, or what I've determined as my life's purpose and my mission, as you stated, that's what I'm all about, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, then, like you said, anything off from that now could take me out of balance. Now, but what I did notice about that was you also included someone in that particular of the activities that you mentioned, and that was your wife, Dawn, and so she was now not just like tugged along. I mean, she bought it. She clearly buys into this. I've been to those, and so you're doing it together. So now what also a business purpose now becomes time with your wife, and so now you've got all things working together. So you're not going to get out of balance with her or the business or any of the other of your people that are coming. For example, customers in this case. So you manage to put together, do something that you both enjoy, and it serves a lot of purposes, and that's balanced. So now you have it set up where you're doing it on your own. she's left out, and now you got a problem that you might have to come back to later. So there's a bit of planning in that too, that keeps people in balance, harmony, or rhythm, as we might say. So, Mike, when you talk about planning those events, who else are you thinking about? Like, what would be how do you determine from your mission, like, what are your priorities when it comes to creating your activities? You know, for example, your wife or your customers, like, who are the people that you consider when you're talking about, if I'm working with all of these people, or I have them considered, that's most likely to be in balance.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think when you're taking the big look at how you want your life, how you want even your week or your day to look, you know, you just by doing that, you're taking control, and you're going to put things and people into your calendar, and you have the control. I think one of the saboteurs people have with trying to stay on track and keep that balance and keep staying on mission is they let other people take over their calendar. And that typically happens when you haven't already set it. And, you know, obviously you guys are a big part of the team that I want to work with, and they're going to be on my calendar. Obviously Dawn is, my family. And, you know, these people need to go into my calendar first. And that's the key. Even when we're looking at our clients or the people that work with us or for us, I think it's so important to live passionately. And you do that by surrounding yourself with people you love, people that you absolutely enjoy being with. And that in itself will create a harmonious environment, no matter what you're doing. And sometimes the stuff we're doing could even be difficult, but it could be harmonious because of the people we're able to surround ourselves with. So it's love what you do what you love, and make sure you're doing with people you love. And,
right. So if I'm reading into that one a little bit, then one of the things that I'm hearing is, yes, do it with the people you love, which means eliminating the ones who cause drama.
Yes.
Right. And I mean, think about how many times we put up with or tug something along that we're noticeably uncomfortable with, and how much time we spend talking about it or planning around it. And I'm talking about individuals here, that you plan around what hurt feelings, or you know, just try to avoid the whole thing. And if you really think about how much time that consumes, and you're talking about balancing things out and making time for making sure that all the priority items get time, because of the amount of time the drama eats up and sucks out, that could be one of the things that will sabotage harmony in a minute, is having someone or more than one someone's of those around and continually dealing with it. So eliminate drama as quickly as you can when you see it.
Yeah, you know, I think the client side, I think the staff side, I think a support network. If you really tie that into your emotionally charged connection, and you have people that you're connecting with on that level, it just makes it so enjoyable. I mean, they're those ideal people that just bring even more satisfaction. It's not just the fact that you're making money necessarily from the client, but you're getting so much more. And then those other people you're talking about, those fun suckers, that the email comes in, the voice message comes in, the contact comes in, everything goes, oh, God, you know, just drains everything out of you. And that's going to be, I believe, removed from your business, removed from your life, if you want to keep that nice balance. And
I would say too on that one is, you know, we know that when you're doing business, if you're selling a service, a product, or whatever you're doing, you're gonna run into people, and it's drama. It just happens. So don't willingly surround yourself with others that are on your team, supposedly, or in your stakeholders group, I'll call it, because that you do have control over, and that will definitely throw you out of balance. You'd be better able to deal with the ones that come along on the, you know, I'd say the not scheduled basis. Could be routinely, but if they come not scheduled, you'll be better positioned to deal with them because you won't have been drugged down by the others.
Yeah. So Eddie, you had touched on this before, but you talked about communicating this balance or harmony with key people. For example, you mentioned your children, your family. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So okay. So it goes with the idea too of things you talked about your mission. So if you communicate your mission to your kids, for example, and hopefully you will have done it to your spouse, they know what you're all about, and so they're not surprised or taken aback by maybe some of the activities or things that you're doing, because you've declared that ahead of time. This is what we're all about. And the communication also, I think about something, for example, about seasonal things. Now I use seasonal in two contexts here. Seasonal being just, in fact, the season. I had a friend of mine that was in the jewelry business, and starting after Thanksgiving all the way through to New Year's, the guy was absolutely positively buried, didn't go home in the evenings till very late. His family knew that, and it was, that was well communicated. But that was kind of an obvious one. What are some of the other things that happen that are going on that might be seasonal in a different context that we also have to communicate? Like, for example, in my own situation, the last couple of years, I've traveled very extensively. And it was on a needed basis for the things that we were doing. We were rebranding. We were an international company. There's lots of considerations to be made, strategies to be done, and some of that done overseas, for example. And we've been training overseas and doing some of those things. Well, I had to communicate to my wife and my family that I don't exactly know how long this season is, but this is not for everything. But it's a season in our business and in my life that I have to tend to in order to, particularly to take care of the family. So it's just necessary. And Mike and I were talking earlier, if you were to open a restaurant, to think that you could do that on a 30-hour-a-week, time budget, you're dreaming. It's gonna be very consuming in the first 2 years. And if that's the season and everybody knows it, and they can help support you through it, then yeah, you don't feel so out of balance because we're talking about it, and they don't feel left out or ignored or do some other passive-aggressive thing because we didn't sit down and have that discussion first. So I think a lot of work-life balance comes, we just didn't talk the thing through. I think people will understand if it's a season in the business or if it's a momentary thing. So I think that kind of communication with the people that are important, or the people or the groups that you've identified as priority is extremely important. So you don't walk around carrying that stuff on your back. Does that make sense?
It does. And Eddie, I tell you that communication is so critical, particularly for us entrepreneurs. There was a study done a number of years ago on successful franchisees, and they were looking at variables that why some were successful and some weren't. And some of the obvious things like undercapitalized, lack of skills, those things played a role on both ways. But the biggest discrepancy, the biggest discrepancy was the strength of their support network. And you think, your spouse could be one of the most critical parts of that support network.
Oh, yeah.
And if they communicated with us, hey, listen, this is going to be a bit time-consuming for a while. Okay, so this is what we can expect. I might not take a vacation this year, for example. Well, if you haven't had that conversation, you might have some disconnect.
Yeah, and believe me, try being out of the communication with something like that for very long with your spouse. There is nothing but drama that waiting to happen on that one. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's not. Sometimes the communication is unwittingly not done. It's not that we intend not to communicate it, because it might. The busyness or the travels and all that stuff may sneak up. The next thing you know, you've been gone or coming home late for a very long time without even realizing it. Mm-hmm. So staying on top of it and having a communication structure with your family, particularly, that allows them to ask those types of questions and just point it out so you can have that kind of communication is extremely important. I do think that a lot of the work-life balance things that I see or that have come to dramatic moments or points of crisis are because nobody stopped and talked about it until it was too late. And just being able to have that commission, particularly as an entrepreneur, guys, look, we're going to have times when we get consumed by something, and so having the conversation before it happens is extremely important.
This is somewhat related, Eddie. One of the things, and that I use is boundaries, and I use calendar boundaries. And one of those is that nights and weekends I don't work. Okay, so I don't work nights and weekends. That's family time, and that family time could be just my wife, 2 cats, and a dog. But that's family time, not work time. But here's the other part, and then I'm allowed to have exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? For example, when you guys come out for conference, and we know, we've got people coming in from around the world.
Right.
Okay, it's okay for me to have an exception because, I got people, and we have people here, we're going to work at night. Now, that work could be things like having dinner with people or the family dinner, certainly working into a weekend so we can make the most of somebody's time. That's acceptable to me, but it's not the norm that I'm going to work in and day out, week in and week out. So having boundaries and allowing exceptions.
Yeah, and then which brings back that second strategy is, okay, knowing that the life of the entrepreneur is a bit obsessive, compulsive, all, nothing, all those things, is how can I mitigate that and, how can you include the important people in some of the things that you do so you get the time? Like, for example, if I'm going to take a bunch of customers out fishing, okay, well, my wife doesn't like to fish, so it's probably out right there. But one of my friends might like to go with the customer. And I'm going to put on a dinner, and something my wife and I like to do, like as you described. Well, that's something that serves all, and we get that together time too. So now I have to incorporate the kids, and believe it or not, some of those things they like to participate in, and when they do, so also looking at some strategies around the things you have to do. Is there a way to include the important people so they have a touch and some connection? And again, a lot of it is about how you feel afterwards. If I've done a week's worth of stuff and I've not talked to anybody here at the house, I'm going to feel bad. And they might not be feeling as bad about it as me. So by including them and communicating with it, it definitely brings that level of stress down.
Mm-hmm. So, Eddie, I want to talk about a couple of saboteurs that I see that can derail this process. And one of it is if your personal saboteur is to be a people pleaser.
Yeah, right here. Right.
Me too.
And that means everyone and anyone's allowed into your calendar at any time. Could be the case. And that will always put you in a challenging position because you're always battling, your own needs with other people's needs. And just as importantly, you may be neglecting people's needs because you're trying to be a people pleaser to everybody.
Yeah, that is definitely, obviously, that's one of those topics that was designed for me right there. Is and believe me, if it's in my capacity, based on my ECC and all of those things, I'm going to do it, and I'm okay with doing it. And then there's a time when, hey, we're a worldwide organization. I can't do it for everybody, and so I'm not only not serving me, I'm not actually serving the people who I said I was going to service in the first place. Mm-hmm. So yes, you could ease, but just from an individual standpoint, you get out of balance very fast saying yes to everything. And some of the ideas I think that you said around that are so true. I need to give 24-hour service. If I'm not there, they'll go someplace else. If we imagine these circumstances of loss that come in to make ourselves a good reason, I guess, to get out of balance. Mm-hmm. And if they're not based in fact, then that will definitely be a saboteur, particularly for the people-pleasing kind. There's nothing wrong with being a people-pleaser either. It's a good thing. It's just that, with everything, whether you're a people-pleaser, results-oriented, or whatever it is, there's the good part of it, and there's the challenge part of it. And that would be the challenge part of being the people-pleaser, is bringing on too many, overcommitting, staying committed, and then now other people have to sacrifice time because of my overcommitments. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely one of the big saboteurs right there. How do you, I know you're probably not as driven that way, but how have you seen others adjust to that, or what have been some of the coaching you've done around that?
Yeah, I think it's one thing to be pleasing people, and then it's the extreme when it's pleasing people at any moment. For example, if I was working with Nanette and we were doing some very important work, and I let somebody intrude on that and interrupt the work we're doing because I don't want to let anybody else down, that would be dishonoring my time, dishonoring the net's time, and then letting the person that's interrupting think they're actually going to get my full attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the extreme comes in. It's what I've always felt about the open door policy. I have an open door policy. Well, that's just dumb. You have an open door policy. It means that anybody can interrupt me and anybody I'm working with at any time. So, I mean, it's to be accessible, I think, is important. And to the extreme, I think being overly accessible, okay, is a formula for disaster. And unfortunately, today, with today's technology, it becomes easier and easier for accessibility.
Yeah, you got it right. They'll send you that request in 9 different formats until you answer one of them, right?
And you know, who's really controlling that? You mentioned it a bit earlier. You know, I'm available to my clients 24/7. Okay, well that's like an open door policy. Also dumb. I think the people on this show, you know, us included, are fairly important people, and none of us are so important that people have to have 24/7 access to us. Mm-hmm. I haven't saved a life of man. I think the last time I saved a life, I was 35 years old, and I prevented a little boy from cycling into the street. Now, I'm a lot older than 35 today, and I haven't saved a life since.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I stopped a guy from choking one time. That was my moment of life saving, but nothing else I've done has saved anybody. You know.
And I'm going to just chime in for a minute, because in my own world, I tell people, you can call me up until 9 o'clock at night, but just know that after 9 o'clock at night, I am not answering the phone. And it's amazing how well trained they are, because some people will call me at 8:58, but that's okay, because they're in their time zone. But you can get them to honor what your wants are of your business, and then you feel better about what you're doing.
Well, and by the way, there's the self-inflicted side of that. Is I take on too many things, and I'll give you one more example because it's kind of funny. You know, somebody will say, you know, can you look at this thing, whatever it is? You say, yeah, sure, I'll look at it. You look at it, and then, all right, look here, I can fix that little thing for you. Okay, good, I'll send you 6 more. You know, next thing you know, you get a mailbox full of stuff. Hey, I agreed to look at one thing, and then, you know, obviously, you know, you got a chance to say yes or no, but
right.
You know, the temptation to take them all, fix them, whatever. You know, no, you just get eaten up. But there's a self-inflicted one too on that. I think it's kind of the same thing. Is yeah, I take on everybody's stuff. I also won't give out anything. You know, so for example, you know, as a young guy when I started out, you know, in the, you know, aircraft catering world, nobody could do an order as good as me. That was what was here. Right? So the idea is I did it all, and I did it all plus the bookkeeping, the paperwork. I mean, I did it all. It's because I wouldn't let things go. So that was self-inflicted. You can easily get out of balance being a control freak. So yeah, I think they're just the same thing, just opposite, you know, the opposite sides of doing it over, not just over committing, but as far as what you take in, but over committing as to what I do, which would be stated another way as I delegate nothing. You know, when I mean delegate, I don't build my organization with people that are become useful and helpful. I keep that from them. That is a huge saboteur.
You know, I actually know people in business, successful businesses, that do not own a cell phone. Not to make calls, not to check emails, not to do texts, not to do social media, simply do not own one. Now that sounds a little bizarre in today's day and age, and I do own one, okay, and I'll say I'm on the side of this is not the way you're going to be catching me 24/7. As a matter of fact, I don't personally see a need to use it, and I don't give people access that way. I have a business line, which I always checking those voicemails or answering the phone. I have email, which I'm extremely prompt on responding to. But the cell phone can be such a saboteur to our business and our life. Simply working on a project, which we all have projects that we're going to take care of today. Simply working on a project and allowing that device to distract you for a moment, just a moment, okay, set you back on that project. so that you have to get refocused. And
There's
you could,
studies on that one, yeah.
you can take a 2-hour project and add an extra hour to it because you allow those just simple split-second distractions. And I watch people self-victimize themselves with the cell phone.
Yeah, so again, saboteurs to your balance, because if they take time, they're taking time away from the priorities you said earlier. So yeah, things that are you set up yourself to be like alarms, basically, that are going to take you off track. That could be the cell phone, that could be the email notification that comes flashing across the computer screen. There are definitely studies on these things that do eat up, and I can't quote them all, but they do eat, each one eats up several minutes at the very least. And you start adding that up, we're setting ourselves up to overwhelm our day, or to get to that overwhelmed, out of balance feeling. So, and again, every person's got an individual mix of this.
I'm actually thinking about an event that happened last week, and I don't have a lot of access with email, or with my phone. Eddie, I'll talk to you myself once in a while, some family members, but occasionally my wife. But that was really it. And I'm having dinner with my wife, my sister, and brother-in-law in San Antonio, and my phone rings, and I look at it. It's my dad. My dad doesn't call me.
So you got that one, you got to answer it.
I go into like panic mode. I go, I gotta take this. I gotta interrupt this. Then I gotta take this. Well, I go, Dad, what's happening? He goes, oh, I wanted to thank you for the gift you sent me. I attended some Bluetooth speakers. I'm like, oh my God, I had a heart attack.
That's funny.
Yeah, but our devices could definitely get in the way, which would eventually start ticking away at our feeling of being in balance or in harmony when you end up at the end of the day and you didn't get as much done as you wanted to get done, whether it be in your work or your life or whatever it is what you were attempting to do that day. So yeah, some of the things that we just, I call it self-inflicted. So that could be taking on too much, in the idea that we're going to do good for people. Not delegating is definitely a big one. Devices would be another one. I'm trying to think of what else, what are some other things that you guys have noticed that would be saboteurs to people achieving the feeling of balance, harmony?
One of the ones that I come in contact with for my life is I like doing most of my work out of my home office. As you can see, this is part of it.
It's a little distracting.
It's a very productive environment. Yeah, not everyone feels that way, but many people have to get out of their home to get work done. And there are times, because I'm at the home, people may be coming in to do work or doing something, and they feel because I am home that they have instant access. And so they'll just come walking in, and I could be on a conversation like this, and somebody starts another conversation. And so I have to work out ways to control that. Mm-hmm. Okay, or else, again, I'm out of balance, and I'm getting hijacked. Yeah. So sometimes it's just sometimes your physical space is also a saboteur.
So I used to know a woman who worked out of her home office, and her office was right by her front door. So what she would do is she would walk out go in, walk out her back door, walk around, walk in her front door, walk into her office. When she did that, everyone around her knew they could not talk to her, they could not bother her. She was not accessed because she was now at the office. Yeah. And then at the end or during lunch, she would get up, and then she didn't get up and just walk into her house. She got back out, opened the front door, walked around to the back of the house, and walked back in the house via the back door. But it was a great message, and everybody knew that was her time, and she was now working.
So, Eddie, what I'd like to do is I'd like to give our audience an opportunity to, you can message into Nanette to let us know maybe some challenges you're having with balance, or maybe some things that you've discovered yourself that help you stay in balance. We'd love to hear from you. And as you're doing that, now I also want to make the point that putting things in your calendar is the proactive way for that balance. If you need more faith time, to have that scheduled as a me time, that's what I'm going to be doing. For those that like to work out, that it's actually in your calendar. My wife Dawn has it scheduled. As a matter of fact, not only does she schedule her workout time. She schedules the time to travel back, and the time to shower afterwards before her next meeting. Okay? She also puts in, it's actually called dawn days. My wife, Dawn Lines, would have dawn days. And sometimes she has things planned with girlfriends to go out and do things, or sometimes it's just open days that she'll figure out what that's going to be when the day comes.
One of the points that I had written down was have a good plan. And, you know, it's funny how that starts out one way and can still come get you every now and then. But, you know, like, what are the things that you have to consider? I have 3 kids, and I have, you know, the business, and I have my wife, and I have all these, you know, other things that, you know, that I'm obligated with as well around my church and my other activities. And, you know, okay, I need a good schedule of events. What's going on? Like I had dance recitals, you know, graduation this weekend for my son, you know, vacation time. I'll say, hey, get all that stuff in, you know, and that way you are like making the priority things important, so you don't unknowingly skip one of those and get yourself in a problem where you're, again, starting to carry on those feelings of being out of balance, or that you let some people down in that regard. And even then, it could still go astray. I'm just laughing because this past weekend I had a group I've been from Ireland that was what we call our tech team. It was our computer people and, you know, some a branding guy, and we were discussing we needed several days together to talk about a lot of things. And man, I looked around in my calendar and there were no events and there was no shows for the kids and there was this and that, and nothing was going to get in the way, except somehow or another I didn't see Mother's Day was on that calendar. You know? And like, so here I am, even with the best of intentions, I had egg on my face, you know. So the idea is, but you know, you want to definitely get ahead of that stuff by putting those kinds of things in there and making sure that you don't just step on something that's over the people that are important to you.
Eddie, maybe a suggestion on that one is we could invite Heather to Italy for Columbus Day to make up for Mother's Day.
Yeah, working on that one.
All right.
That's one of the ways that we want to do it, is that she gets to come on some of the travels that we do. So.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a comment from Karen Harrison, and it says, once my big rocks are in my calendar, they become flexible, never optional.
Excellent.
That's spoken just like Karen would say it. Yeah.
You know, when you talk about those big rocks, it's interesting how people sometimes approach their calendar. Like, for example, obviously you want to have important things in there first. Eddie and I were working with some folks opening up Ascension offices around the country, and we started calendaring. They said it's blank. Well, no, it's not really blank. Well, today it is. Now, what goes in first? And interesting, no one in the room came up with me. I come first.
Oh, wow.
Okay, my vacation time, my personal time, the birthdays I'm celebrating, family things I'm celebrating, now those go in first.
Yeah, right.
That goes in first, and then you build your calendar, your business, your life around that. But, you know, so Karen, when you say your big rocks, let's make sure the big rocks are really big rocks.
Yeah.
And that's you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, by the way, I know Karen quite well, and one of the things that I know they do is they do have their events, you know, pretty much calendared. And but to be flexible, they travel to most of them in a motorhome. So if things you know change or require a little change of course, she's flexible in that way. But I kind of understand what she's saying there. Like, for example, we were here with our coaching school not terribly long ago, probably less than a year. And, you know, a lot of us have things planned in. Well, this was an important thing that we were doing. And so some of us had to move some things that were on regularly scheduled time in order to make it work for the whole group. So now I was, okay, you know, for example, a regularly scheduled appointment that might have been for me, well, there's 7 other people relying on this everybody else can do it, and if I'm the Lone Ranger left out, that's probably one I'm going to have to give on. Right, and that's what the flexible thing is. Yeah, I had my rock in there, but this was a better thing even from balance wise. It was a better thing to do was to do this. So yeah, big rock there, and yet flexible to adjust, appropriately.
And I do like the idea of the mobile home.
Yeah.
My life is most out of balance when I'm at an airport or in an airplane.
Oh man. Yeah.
I can definitely see how that could put things in balance.
Yeah.
Well, she just wanted to let us know that 8 to 10 a.m. and 2 to 4 p.m. and then 8 to 10 p.m. are me times, and she's got that in big letters.
Oh, good.
I wouldn't challenge her on that either, by the way. No, very important. I mean, yeah, it goes back to a lot of things. It's well communicated, part of a good plan. Definitely in Karen's, mission, I would say, knowing her. Totally in alignment. Good strategy.
Eddie, she says you know her so well.
I do, believe me.
Do we have any other questions or some other comments or suggestions on keeping balance and harmony? We're approaching the end of the show, so we can either take the questions, wrap it up. Just to let everyone know that's on the show, we do a behind the scenes. After the show is ended, we will end the formal show. We will stop the recording, but then we open it up. And the topics could be anything you'd like to talk about, whether it relates to this topic or not. So you just kick back and bring people backstage.
Yeah. If I had a going away tip on all this one, would be probably let people help you and find help in the things that you need that you can afford. In other words, if you have to sub something out, something you're doing, if you can sub it out or have others help you do things. It doesn't have to be just in your business, by the way. I mean, it could be household chores or things like that. It's sometimes the easiest way to start getting chunks of your life back and get back in that harmony or that rhythm that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of my clients built his whole business from his ECC. He was a bookkeeper. He was really almost ready to close his doors. And then he got through to his ECC and understanding that his clientele were those people who needed those chunks of life back, because when he was a kid, he didn't have that time with his dad because his dad was always working and always going. So he was actually going after small businesses, mostly restaurateurs, and that don't have a lot of time and who are not good at bookkeeping. And that's actually what made me think about you, Eddie. Not that you weren't good at bookkeeping, I'm sure you were, but
I didn't have time for it.
Right, and they don't either, and their families, were on them also. And he has really built a very successful business around that, just by saying to these entrepreneurs, look, I want to be able to give you time back in your life, and I can do this for you. And from that, those people started delegating that part of their business to him and started coming back to him saying, thank you, because I feel like I can breathe a little bit now. And so it's awesome, really.
Yeah. And by the way, a business growth strategy, excuse me, Mike, is if you're in that position where you can start, giving that to people in your organization, for example, trusting them with more things and helping them, find the way that they can do it their way, is very growth mindset oriented. It's going to help. It's going to help them feel better about being with you.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
You holding on to things, me too. Holding on to things is actually holding back the growth of the organization. So there's another cost to that besides just your harmony. So.
Exactly. Well, we're at the almost designated hour here. Do either one of you have any last comments you'd like to add?
I'd like to just recap some of the things about the balance. It doesn't mean it has to be equal. It does mean that we want to be in control of what that looks like, and part of that's the calendar. But even from the big picture, what's your purpose? Is it connected with your emotionally charged connection? And are you staying on mission? Staying on mission will create those not to-do lists. And those things that you want to be doing, you're not doing, get them in the calendar. Make that commitment that you're going to have that time, whether it's for family or faith or fun or whatever it is that you'd like to see more of.
Yeah, I think my last little quote on this would be, though, all that's good stuff, man. And here's the thing is, we will never feel like we're in balance or in harmony or in rhythm unless the important people around us that we've declared also feel the same way, and we're communicating, we know where we are. Because if we're in the dark about where they stand, we're not going to walk around feeling good about it, and we could be realistically probably in a good place. But we won't, if we're not in communication with them about it, we'll never feel it, even if we are in rhythm.
And I loved Mike's not to-do list.
Oh yeah.
I loved that, Mike. That was awesome. That's my nugget for the day. So thank you very much for that. So we want to thank you for joining us this month, and we hope that you come back to join us in June. We are actually going to be doing that month, how to use online tools and to support your high-touch marketing. And we are going to have a special guest for that, along with my two partners in crime here, Thomas Gay, and I want to read this to you because I love this first line of his bio. Thomas Gay is a lifelong serial entrepreneur focused on bringing IT solutions to complex business and marketing problems. And I would tell you that that is probably a problem a lot of people have. So please come back next month and learn how to solve these problems. He will be an awesome guest with us, and we are looking forward. So the third Thursday every month, we want you to hear. So thank you for being with us at the Spectacular Entrepreneur Show. We're hoping you're having an amazing business and a spectacular life. Thanks, guys, and stick around for Backstage. See you in a minute.
Thanks, Nanette.